Sometimes, a single act of kindness can change a life, not just for the one receiving it, but for the one giving it too. If you believe that too, hit that like button right now, because this story will touch your heart deeply. It was a cold, windy afternoon when Emma, a young waitress working at Joe's diner, looked down at the single sandwich sitting in her lunchbox. She had made it with the last loaf of bread at home that morning. Her rent was overdue, and she'd skipped breakfast just to save a few dollars. The diner was quiet that day. Rain tapped gently against the window panes, and the smell of coffee filled the air. Emma had been working double shifts for weeks, trying to pay off her mother's medical bills. Her feet ached, her hands were dry from constant washing, but her spirit, though tired, was kind. As she stepped outside to take her short lunch break, she saw him. A homeless man sitting under the awning, shivering. His clothes were torn, his hair messy, and his eyes carried the weight of stories no one had cared to hear. People passed him by, pretending not to see him. But Emma couldn't. She hesitated for a moment. She hadn't eaten all day, but then smiled softly, walked up to him, and said, "Hey, you look hungry. Want to share a sandwich?" The man looked up surprised. "No, miss, you keep it. You look like you need it more than me," he said softly. But Emma shook her head, tore the sandwich in half, and sat beside him. "It tastes better when shared," she said. They talked. He told her his name was George, once a construction worker who lost everything after an accident. She listened, really listened, as if he was the most important person in the world. For the first time in years, George felt seen. When she went back inside, her manager, Mr. Harris, frowned. "Emma, stop wasting time. We don't serve food outside the diner," he scolded. "I wasn't serving food," she replied quietly. "I was just being kind." That night, Emma walked home hungry but at peace. She didn't know that her small act had been noticed. The next morning, the manager called her into his office. Emma's heart sank. She thought she was in trouble. Maybe a customer had complained. Maybe she was about to lose her job. She knocked timidly. "Sir, you wanted to see me?" Mr. Harris looked up with a serious face. "Yes, come in, Emma." Then, to her shock, there was someone else sitting in the room, wearing clean clothes, neatly trimmed beard, but the eyes were familiar. "George," she whispered in disbelief. He smiled. "Hi, Emma." Tears welled up in her eyes. Mr. Harris stood and explained, "Emma, this gentleman came here early this morning. He told me how you shared your only lunch with him yesterday. What you didn't know was that he wasn't just any homeless man." Emma looked confused. George stepped forward and said, "I used to own a construction company before everything fell apart. But I've been trying to rebuild my life. Yesterday, your kindness reminded me of who I used to be. You didn't know me, yet you treated me with respect." He reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope. Inside was a check, more money than she'd ever seen. "I'm reopening my company," he said, smiling warmly. "And I want you to be part of it. You have the kind of heart this world needs." Emma's hands trembled. She couldn't stop the tears from falling. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because when everyone looked away, you didn't," George replied. That afternoon, the entire diner clapped as Emma stepped out of the manager's office, overwhelmed but grateful. Her coworkers, who had once teased her for being too nice, now looked at her with admiration. She didn't just feed a hungry man, she restored hope in both their lives. Weeks later, Emma began working for George's new firm. She was able to pay her mother's bills, move into a better apartment, and even go back to school. But she never forgot her roots. Every Sunday, she still visited the diner and shared free meals with anyone in need. Because she knew kindness doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be real. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Chronicles. Because every click helps us spread more stories that remind the world. Sparkles, a small act of kindness, can create miracles you never see coming.